Hey guys, this is Freedom Voice again with part 2 of Mica was gang stalked. In this part, I want to kind of look again at that footage at the pawn shop. And I do this because, we all want to see justice for Mica. So a police report was filed 2 weeks before she was found unalive. And in that police report, you can see here's the report here. It was actually taken at her location, 2323 Margarita Drive. And the nature of the police report or the incident report is that of suspicious. So, but when you look down at the notes, this is where it gets into the details about the tracking device. Now, the tracking device or the type of tracking device I found to be very interesting. It says, complainant states that she located a heavy-duty tracker on her vehicle. Wants to turn over as evidence. Now, I highlighted heavy-duty tracker because that's not just a regular tracker, guys. I mean, that's something that's very unique. And how did the tracker get there? Well, the report goes on to say that she believed that her husband placed it on her car. Complainant was to meet basically the officer and told the officer that they were married, and the officer said it's a civil issue, so on and so forth. So I did a little Google search, and I noticed that there are heavy-duty trackers, and here's one here. Basically, it's a heavy-duty GPS tracking device, and it's made for harsh conditions. Now, I'm not sure if this is exactly the tracker that was used, but one of the things, there were 3 things that I noticed about the tracker, this particular tracker. It's used in a commercial setting because it has, number one, a very long battery life. In addition to that, it has, it operates based on the satellite. In addition to that, it operates under very harsh conditions. So it's used not only for commercial purposes, but it can also be used in the military as well. So I thought that was very, very interesting. Why are we talking about, or why are tracking devices? Why is that important? Well, when you look at South Carolina state laws, it's very specific about harassment and stalking. Here are the laws, Title 16, Chapter 3. It goes over the laws of harassment in the first degree and then laws of harassment in the second degree. In the first degree, it's following a target as the person moves from location to location. Visual or physical contact that is initiated, maintained, or repeated after a person has been provided oral or written notice that the contact is unwanted. Number 3, surveillance of or the maintenance of a presence near the target person. Basically near the person's residence, near the person's place of work, school, or any place that's regularly occupied or visited by the target. And it includes vandalism and property damage. All of this is against the law in South Carolina. Now, that's basically harassment in the first degree. Then it gets into harassment in the second degree. I'm not going to go through that here. But I think what we're looking at here, and the reason why I want to go back to that footage and at the pawn shop, is because you're dealing with harassment in the first degree here. And this is very specific. So I want to look back at that footage. Now, if you remember in my first video, I pointed out the fact that Mica sort of locked in on the guy with the red shirt. And some people said, well, it was because he had a baby and she was desiring to have a baby. And my thought is, either she's depressed and about to unalive herself, or she's happy and want to have a baby. I mean, it's either one or the other, guys. I think I'm clear on what it is. I'm clear that she believed that she was being stalked. She not only believed it, but it was factual. And this video is showing not only the guy in the red shirt, but the guy in the black. But in addition to that, I got a lot of comments about this man here in the green. So I went back to the video and I looked at it, and I want to kind of show you something very interesting and very, very suspicious about this man in the green. Now, you might say, well, which one is it? The one in the red, the one in the black, or the one in the green? And I would say it's all of them. And I know that sounds really, really sort of strange or weird or even fanatical in some sense. But the fact of the matter is we're dealing with gang stalking, and that's the reason why it's called gang stalking. It's because it's more than one person involved. It's a community of people stalking Mica. And why were they stalking her? Obviously her husband had something to do with it, and that was the reason why the police report stated that her husband put the trackers on her car. So, as you can see, the guy in the green shirt standing towards the exit door, and he's looking down in the glass case there, and he's just kind of looking. Now, this is where it gets interesting, guys, and I want to kind of go through this slowly. You'll notice at a certain point he decides to leave. I believe he was listening to the conversation. He saw that she was getting ready to leave, that she had her firearm and she was leaving, so he walked out first. Now, this is where it gets interesting because Mica walks out as well. Notice the timestamp at the top of the screen, 12:33 and 40 seconds. That's very interesting. Now, notice the doors on the left side. They're going to open and close again. Notice they open and no one walks through, and then they close. Now, the only way for these doors to open and close is they have to be activated by motion. So when you go back and you look at another angle of the same video, you notice Mica leaving. You'll notice also toward the top of the screen where the timestamp 12:33 and 30 seconds, between the 33 and the 30, you can see the guy in the green shirt. He's outside, but you can still see him at the top of the screen between 33 and 30. And as I run it back, you can see him moving between 33 and 30 at the top of the screen. And what's interesting about this is she looks to the left. Mica looks to the left. It's obvious that she can see him. But what's more interesting about this is as I continue the video and she walks out, this is where it gets really interesting, suspicious, I would say. When she walks out, the doors close on her end, but then the doors on the left side open. And I asked myself the question, why did the doors open? Was it because he was coming back in? Well, when you look at the video again and you just let it play, and again, you notice up the top of the screen, the timestamp, you can see him between the 12 and the 33. You can see him walk there. He's right where the 12 is, and he stops. And then he backs up. He turns around, and now he's going to start back toward the door. You can see it at the top of the screen. He's at the 33, and now he's moving back toward the door. You can see his green shirt moving back toward he is the one that tripped the door and made it open and close again. And then, obviously, he didn't walk in. But what's even more interesting about this footage is the fact that he goes back. You can see him again going back towards, but he doesn't go out into the parking lot. He just kind of stays in the vestibule area there, right by the 12. It's as though he's watching her. He has his eyes on her. Notice he's right where the 12 is. And if you'll notice, he's going to turn around and come back toward the door again. All right. He's where the door is. And notice the timestamp is 12:34 and 11 seconds. Now he's right where the 12 is, and you'll see him turn around and come back again. There he is, coming back toward the door again. And you can clearly see his green shirt at this point, between the 12 and the 34. So the question is, why isn't he going out in the parking lot? What is he watching? I think it's obvious, guys. He's watching Mica. He's stalking Mica. He's definitely involved. So this is very interesting because between 12:33 and 32 seconds and 12:34 and 32 seconds, a whole minute, he stands there watching her get in her car and drive off. And I thought that was very fascinating, very interesting, because it's clear from this. Now, one doesn't have to, you can kind of judge motive based on the action. As I run the video again, I want to let it play out again, but I want to play it side by side with the exterior surveillance video. So you can see Mica going out the door, 12:33 and 37 seconds. You can see him turning around. And you can see him walking back toward the door. Okay. 12:33 and 44 seconds. He's starting back toward the door. You can see the doors open and close above the monitor. You can see those doors opening and closing. And then he stops and he goes back. Now, the timestamp is exactly the same on the exterior surveillance video as on the interior. So it's exactly the same. So 12:33 and 53 seconds, you can see Mica walking across the parking lot. You can also see him between the 33 and the 57 standing there. Obviously, he's looking at her. Obviously, he's waiting for her to get in the car and drive off. He doesn't want her to see him watching her. So this is stalking clearly, guys. You can see him still at the 12. He's right between the 1 and the 2. Mica just got in her car. You can see her on the right side. She just got in her car. And she's gonna, obviously it'll take a little time, but very soon she'll back out and she'll take off. But he's still standing there. You can see his green shirt between the 12 and the 34. He's still there. And it's like he won't go out in the parking lot. I think it's very obvious, guys. I mean, one doesn't have to judge motive. One can judge motive based on the actions. So I have to admit, guys, I mean, this gets more and more, there are more and more layers coming out as we look at the evidence here. And this is hard evidence, guys. But tell me what you think down in the comment section. I mean, obviously, the guy in the green shirt is also a part of it. Obviously, he's stalking her. I didn't see that in the beginning, but after looking at the video again, I can see it clearly now. So until next time, guys, take care.